We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I may not be a millionaire. I may not have a brand new Frigidaire. My clothes ain't all fancy, and my car ain't brand new. But there is joy in my house. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid and no one is insignificant who says it. I'm joined here by my guest co-host, R.G. Robinson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome to be here. Glad to be here.
Well, if you don't know what we're about, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad you're tuning in with us today. This is called Joy in My House. It's a joy that we have in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of our challenges, and also in the midst of our praise, our blessings. I want to thank all of you out there who are listening and viewing and joining us. I want you to know that you can find us on Facebook /Joy in My House and get up-to-date lineups of guests and information. You can also tweet us directly on twitter.com /Joy in My House and give us some of your contact. Give us some of your praise and some of your blessings in your life. We would love for you to engage with us. I'm joined here by my guest co-host, R.G. Robinson. He is a CEO and founders of Street Fellas Inc. and have a new project coming up now with R.G. Speaks.
Yes, sir.
R.G.,
Yes,
tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Well, it's a campaign that I came up with. It's on YouTube right now. I'm doing videos. The objective is to get information to kids about the rap music business. They tend to follow a lot of these rappers. These kids, these young people tend to follow a lot of these rappers and believe that what they say is true. In other words, what they're saying they do. Their lifestyles. But that's not their lifestyles, and that's what we're trying to get over to the kids, because they're getting into a lot of trouble. They're getting killed and getting locked up.
And we have an opportunity to talk, you and me, so we always kind of bounce off each other. I realize that a lot of these things that we watch on TV, you keep saying they're characters. This isn't really what they go home to, but yet the people who are watching them, the young children that are being influenced by them, always tend to feel like that's the way they need to live their lives.
It's because the kids don't know any better. Most of them don't have parents. Well, a lot of them don't have fathers at home to tell them any better. And if they do have parents, they don't school them. They don't tell them what the truth is. And so the kids have no choice but to listen. And when they listen to the songs and they watch the videos, that's all they have to go on. And they really believe that these guys live that way. So.
Well, RJ, I want to thank you for coming on and guest co-hosting with me, because we have an amazing guest today.
Yes,
but
sir.
What put it on your heart to start Street Fellas Inc.? What put it on your heart to start speaking out on this subject?
Well, just watching and seeing a lot of. I was in the music business for 22 years, and I saw a lot of things, and it really started to bother me, watching kids really believing that the music business is reality. They watch the videos. Like I said, they watch the videos. They go out and try to perform the same thing that these guys said that they do. Deal the drugs, shooting and killing and that sort of thing. So it really started to bother me. And I said, somebody has to do something about it. So I figured it would be.
And
good.
I gotta say, that subject is a very taboo subject. It's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Right.
You can talk about the drugs, and you can talk about the alcohol, you can talk about the gangs, but then you start talking about music. And then people shut down. People don't want to hear you messing with some of their stuff that they enjoy, which is entertainment.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why it's a pretty, I wouldn't say scary thing, but it's a touchy subject.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a touchy subject, because if you're able to get over to these kids the truth, then they're going to stop, not necessarily stop buying it, but they're going to stop listening to a lot of these guys and believing what they say. So.
Well, I think it's important that there is a voice out there, that people who do want a better way of living, who do want to take it to that next level where they're living a healthy, prosperous life, need to take certain steps. And I think a lot of, like you said, a lot of father figures aren't there. There's not a lot of direction. Now, in RG Speaks, are you giving them applicable tools that they can use for them to live this or walk this walk?
Yeah, well, there's certain steps to the project. Right now, I'm in the informative phase,
Okay.
so I'm giving in the information. The next phase is solution. So that's the way it'll be. I guess the informative phase will be for the next maybe 30 days or so,
And
and
where
then
can we
we'll
find out more information? Where can we see some of these
actually on
lectures?
YouTube right now on YouTube it's on RG Speaks. You can key in RG Speaks. My website is rgspeaks.com. The Facebook is RG Robinson. My Twitter is at RG Speaks with a Z. And like I said, the YouTube channel is RG Speaks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go and tune in with us. I want you to engage with us. We want to hear your blessings. We want to hear your praise and how it's working out for you out there. As we get to sit back here, we get amazing guests that inspire and motivate us. I hope that you out there listening and viewing get the opportunity to tune in with us and be inspired. Find hope through some of these stories. I want you to find us on Facebook as well. Join My House. I want you to find us on Twitter /Join My House. And if you want to watch any of our archive messages, you can watch them on the network's website on www.latalklive.com. Click on shows, Join My House, and watch all of our archive messages. I want you to know if you're listening to us right now on a mobile device, you can stream us live on ustream.tv. This is Join My House, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to stay tuned. We have an amazing in-studio guest by the name of Freeway Rick Ross. If you don't know him, you're going to want to know him. He was American convicted drug trafficker, best known for the drug empire he presided over in LA in the early 80s and late 90s. And now he's giving back to the community he helped once destroy. You are not going to want to miss. This is Join My House, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to stay tuned.
Lift your hands towards him. Come, let us exalt him. Come to me, said Jesus. I am the only light. I am always there to lead and guide you through your life. Come to me, said Jesus. I am the Lord of hosts. I will not leave you comfortless. I sent the Holy Ghost. As I walk through the trials, tests will seem so hard. I know His presence is with me. The Word of God inspires me to do my very best. The Holy Word it soothes my soul and lets my spirit rest. The Word of God inspires me to do my very best. The Holy Word it soothes my soul. Now I can face all challenges and do all I can. Confront the things that face me. I know I'm in God's hands, yeah. And when I call, He answers. He's never far away. And as I seek Him daily, He teaches me how to pray. As I walk through the trials, tests will seem so hard. I know His presence is with me. Oh, the Word of God inspires me to do my very best. The Holy Word it soothes my soul and lets my spirit rest. The Word of God inspires me to do my very best. The Holy Word it soothes my soul. Angels bow before Him, heaven and earth adore Him. Give Him the praise, the praise. Angels bow before Him, heaven and earth adore.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. I'm sitting here with my guest co-host, RG Robinson, and our in-studio guest, Freeway Rick Ross. Welcome to the show, Russ.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, do you go by Ross or Rick? What do you like to go
Man,
by?
they call me so many names. I mean, when I got my indictment, I had about 100 names on the papers.
What do you like to go by? So I make sure that I call you
My close friends that I grew up with call me Rick.
Rick. Well, can I call you Rick?
You can call me Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Well, welcome to the show. I want to just thank you for being faithful and coming on the show. I know that you're a busy man, so getting out of your schedule to come out here it's an opportunity. It's
Well,
a
you
real
know,
opportunity.
my word is my bond, and I try everything I can to keep my word, because once you start breaking your word, and that means that your bonds are going to start to break as well.
That's so true. That's so true. Now, if you don't know Freeway Rick Ross, ladies and gentlemen, you need to. This gentleman was best known for his drug empire here in Los Angeles in the early and mid 80s, and now how he's giving back. And he's giving back to the community he once helped destroy. If you don't know, he also has a new book out. You're not going to want to miss this story. So we're going to go right into it. Rick, tell us where you grew up. Tell us your family of origin.
Well, I was born in Tyler, Texas, in the Piney Woods. Small town, really racist.
Wow.
Still had, when I was born, I remember having bathrooms, separate bathrooms for
Wow.
black and whites. So my mom moved us when I was like 3 or 4 years old, hoping to bring us to a place where we could have more opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved to LA when I was like 3, maybe 4.
About 4 years old.
And along the way, we had some tragedies happen, which is one of the beginning of the book that everybody get to find out what that tragedy was. I'm not going to share it here on the air.
Okay.
I'm going to let them buy the book to find out. But I was here when they had to watch riots. I was
Wow.
a little boy. I was able to see the buildings burn. I remember the Black Panthers marching the streets and how I wanted to be a Black Panther.
Wow.
Yeah, I wanted to be a Black Panther. And my brother was a us. My older brother, who was 7 years older than I was, he marched with the us. And I can remember one day him coming in the house and his nose was broken, his mouth was busted where the police had beat him up. And it kind of put a distaste for me with the police at that time.
Right, right. Well, who wouldn't? It would happen to anybody. Now, when did you start? How was your growing up, maybe high school years? When did you start actually getting into some trouble?
Well, you know, my life pretty much was normal. I mean, kind of normal. You know, let me change that, because life in South Central's normal is not
The average.
the average. Well, average for South Central and
Right.
East LA and
Yes.
Long Beach.
Yeah, Boyle
Average
Heights.
for those
yeah.
type of places. I started playing tennis at 12 years old.
Mhm.
Before that, I wanted to be a Crip. See,
Wow.
I remember when the Crips first started. I remember Big Tookie, and they would have their Crip meetings in the park. And me and my guys, we would be on our little dirt bikes, and we would sit there. We were scared to go over to the meetings and get inside the meeting, but we would stand a safe distance.
Right, right.
Would they have the meetings in the parks?
They would have them in the park.
Yeah.
Inside the park
Yeah.
was a little grass area, and we would sit there and observe them, and you know, I loved their unity and their strength, and I desperately wanted to be a part of that. What derailed that though was one day at the park roller skating, a guy put a tennis racket in my hand, a guy by the name of Richard Williams.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. What did you do once you had that opportunity? Did you right away pick up the tennis?
Well, not right away. You know, I started playing just gradually. But what it did is it allowed me the opportunity to start seeing things that I had never saw before.
Right, right.
You know, I started going to tournaments in La Jolla and Santa Barbara
Wow.
and Bakersfield. We had country clubs, and I started to see how these people were living, and I was like, man, maybe
Yeah.
what I see in South Central is not all there is to life. You know,
Mhm.
there's other things in other places. So I no longer wanted to be a gangbanger. I
Mhm.
found out about Arthur Ashe.
Mm.
And instead of me looking up to Big Tookie, I started looking up to Arthur Ashe.
Wow, how interesting. Now, what derailed that? What made you start really getting into some serious trouble? Because I understand that you started stealing cars. Tell us a little bit
Well,
about
in high school is when I started to get in trouble. After it was discovered that I couldn't read or write. I was 18 years old. Should have been graduating. Was in the 12th grade. But I couldn't read or write. And once that was discovered, it was known then that I was not going to a college to play tennis.
Okay.
So after I wasn't no longer going to be playing tennis, I started going back to my neighborhood. I started hanging out with my little brothers, because all my little brothers gangbang. My little sister, she gangbang. So I started hanging back out with the people that I had grew up with in South Central, because basically when I played tennis, I would come to South Central at 7 or 8 o'clock at night,
Right, and you're
and I
tired.
would be gone in the morning.
Right,
So all I did in South Central was slept.
right, right.
But when it was no longer that I was going to be playing tennis, now I'm back in South Central, not at night, but all day long,
day
every
long.
day. Now I'm hanging out at the park. I started going to the lowrider hops. I'm seeing guys carrying guns, the women, and all that's in the book too. I explain it in great detail in the book about how all this took place. So now I got 1 foot inside the streets and 1 foot inside the tennis, barely.
Barely.
How come you couldn't? What happened with the tennis thing? I mean, they couldn't find some kind of program where you could play without schooling.
They don't have programs like that. I mean, even right now today, man, it's crazy, because I meet kids because we also work with some young football players, and sometimes these guys just can't get to schooling, and because they can't get to schooling, they can't go to the NFL.
Wow.
Right.
And
Wow.
no matter how
There's no
great they are
programs,
and how well they've honed their football skills, and I don't believe that you should lock somebody out if that's all they have. It shouldn't
Right.
be where, okay, you can't pass the academics, but you train
Yeah.
yourself to be a football player. I believe that he should have a chance to go and play football.
Yeah, my father's an educator. Grew up in Boyle Heights. They say Mexicans are taco benders. It's a stereotype. My father was a taco bender, but he was also one of the first Mexicans to get his master's in physics. So he's a scientist, and he's always believed in education. But he says he played ball. He was captain of the football team, being running back, being 5'6". So you know what? They should have a degree just for ball players. Why not? They deserve it. They work just as hard as somebody who's getting
Absolutely.
educated, and they should have a degree specifically for those who work hard in that field as well.
That makes sense.
So that I understand what you're coming to is we have to have more programs for our youth.
Absolutely.
Because we're so diverse.
Yeah.
We're not all brain smarts. I'm not that guy.
Right,
So we need to find programs for our youth. But I wanted to get to who, because this is so significant in your life, because something really derailed you, and that was drugs. Who introduced you to the drug scene or into
Well,
drugs?
Once I started hanging back in the hood, I ran into a guy by the name of Michael McLaurin. Michael was a guy who painted cars, and he was a good guy. Don't get me wrong, by no means of imagination. I loved him like a brother. He painted cars. He also played football. Well, he got a football scholarship.
Oh,
And he goes off to San Jose, and one day he comes back from college, and he's like, man, I found the greatest thing since white bread, light bread.
yeah, sliced bread. That's right.
So he laid it on the table, and I saw it, and I was like, what is that? And he said, oh, this is cocaine. And
Wow.
what I found out later on in life, after I had studied myself, and this book is going to explain to people how I analyze myself, being in solitary confinement, with a life sentence. I wanted to find out how I got in the position that I was in. What I found out is kind of what you was just saying a few minutes ago, RG3, about this entertainment.
Mhm.
See, when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I went and watched a movie called Superfly.
Wow.
And when I watched that movie, for the first time in my life, I saw a black guy that I really wanted to be like.
You saw a powerful black guy.
I saw a powerful black guy, a guy that stood up, that beat the man at his own game.
Mhm.
So when I saw that movie, I loved it.
Mhm.
When anytime I got a chance to watch that movie, I watched it again and over again. And when I got my first VCR, that was in my VCR.
That was the first
You could come over
VHS.
my
That's
house,
right.
Didn't come out of the VCR.
Yeah.
stayed in there all day long. And what I found out is that I had basically been brainwashed.
Yeah.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
the day that Michael offered me the cocaine, it was something
you
I couldn't
automatically
even
went to
I couldn't even
Superfly.
turn it down.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
my subconscious mind took over and said, this is the opportunity you've been waiting on all your life
To be Superfly.
to be Superfly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
No,
I mean, if I can say something, it's the same thing with the rap world with Scarface. Do you remember what happened when Scarface came out, the movie Scarface?
Yes. Yes.
With Al Pacino? Everybody went crazy. They did. Everybody
They all
wanted
wanted
to
to
be
be-
Scarface.
they
They
all
wanted
wanted
to
to
be.
be
They wanted to be Tony Montana.
I wanted to be Tony Montana. Come on,
Well, you know
man.
what I found that was interesting, because we talk about education and we talk about giving back. One of the teachers is the one that told you, or one of the educators was one of the ones that told you. At least I saw that in one of the documentaries, that said, this thing selling cocaine can make you a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely. He told me that I think the house that he lived in, the car that he drove, and the jewelry he wore came from teaching. And I said, yeah. And he said, no.
Wow.
Wow.
But I want people to realize out there that just because you're an educator, or just because wherever position you are, we're still human. We all make mistakes. We all lead astray. But it is our job to, once we get that information, to make the best decision possible. But when we're put in the situation, the circumstances you were talking, as RG speaks on now, is that we're pretty much brainwashed with the media, with
Oh,
the television.
absolutely.
They tell us what we want to wear. They tell us what we want to look like. And then we have a bad self-image of ourselves. And then we don't
If
realize
you
why.
don't have that.
Yeah, if
I
you
mean,
don't
I
have
go
it, yeah.
around and speak at these schools, and it's really crazy, you know. I see these young kids who I know. Matter of fact, I teach right now at a school. I'm teaching at a school without a high school diploma or GED or a college degree, but I teach
you have experience, though.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to hear.
I
Sometimes
do,
that's
I
the
do.
best.
I teach at a school in Watts called Inspired, and when I go to these schools and I see these kids win a piece of hair that costs $600, or a pair of Nike Air Jordans that costs $200, and I'm like, wow, how can you afford to do that? You know, living where you live.
Yep.
And it's because they've been so brainwashed that they will take their last dollar to go out and buy a pair of tennis shoes, or to buy some hair, or a jacket, or a watch, or a purse, or a belt, just so they can feel some significance about themselves.
I think that's so important that you're talking about that, because I think our youth is very deceived, is very distracted. We're very materialistic. Like you said, we spend our last dollar on those Nike Air Jordans that really aren't going to do very much for us. Just the opposite, put us in debt.
Yeah.
And now with society now doing everything on credit, man, we're never going to get out of this hole. So I'm glad that you're giving back to these kids and really giving them a sense of reality, because they really need it. And that's what RG speaks on, is giving them that sense of reality, that these people, that those people that you watch on the videos, the rap videos, the even the television, the models and all that, it's just a character. And I love that you say that. It's just a character.
Yeah.
They're playing a part.
Yeah.
They're playing a part. But I did want to touch on how did you go from that point of being introduced to cocaine to being one of the major suppliers to not only LA but the drug dealers in LA? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, it started off slow. I started off with $125, but what I did is I took my same determination and will that I had for tennis,
Wow. How
and I
interesting you
turned
say
it
that.
into drug dealing.
Mm-hmm.
And what else I found out about dealing drugs is there's no color barriers.
Yeah, it doesn't discriminate.
There's no ceilings about how high you can go, because in that business, it's about how much money you got.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned quick that money bought everything.
Mm-hmm.
Money bought connections. Money bought better prices. So when I figured that out, all I did was just went in with money, and they would forget about my high school background, what color I was,
That's
where I
right.
stayed.
And the truth is, one of the reports is that you were making close to $3 million a day, or at least several
Not all
times.
the time. Not all
And
the
that's
time.
what I figured, not all the time, but even just to hit that benchmark, that is a lot of money to be making. I don't care if I make that in a lifetime, it's a lot of money, let alone in a day or in a week.
Yeah, I had days that I made $3 million. Days I made $2 million. Days I made $1.5 million. But it all came from my consistent determination,
Right.
to sacrifice, to. I mean, when I read 300 business books before I left prison.
Wow.
And when I read those books, what I saw in Sam Walton was myself.
I believe it.
He used the same principles that I use into my drug business.
And you learn those out in the street, because we talk about that. And my co-host Lolita, which is a friend of RG's as well, she always talks about credibility. You have that credibility because you walked that path. You lived it. You're not talking about being a professor out in a school giving theory. You're talking about real life application. And because of your survival, you had to learn. You had no choice.
Absolutely. South Central was dangerous, and there's been many times that I could have made mistakes that could have not only cost me my life, but a lot of other people their lives. And I'm just thankful that I made the right calls at the right time.
Well,
Most of the time.
I gotta ask. I gotta exactly most, and that's all we can do, right? That's
Yeah.
all we can do. But I do want to ask this
Nobody's
question.
perfect.
Yep.
I read one time where they said Michael Jordan is the best basketball player that they say ever played
Ever played.
basketball, and he didn't make but 50% of his shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to let the viewers and audience out there know that, you know what, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, and some of us make some big, big mistakes. But thank God that we have a redeeming God that, we can ask for forgiveness. And now you're making amends by giving back. But I wanted to touch on this because I think it's important. It's a little more personal, but I wanted to ask you, did you ever feel guilty for what you were doing? Because at the time you might not have seen it, but did you feel any guilt at that point?
Well, at the end, when I quit selling drugs is when I started to feel the guilt. I mean, your mind plays different tricks on you when you're selling drugs.
And that's what I wanted to get to.
When you first start, I felt like I was bringing a piece of Hollywood to Los Angeles, to my friends and my family. When you hear about, Richard Pryor's getting high, and
Right.
Quincy Jones is getting high, and Don Cornelius is getting high, and you're like, I want to be a part of that.
Right.
I want to live the Rick James lifestyle. I want to go in front of a crowd and everybody's cheering for me and root me on, and he's getting high. And then you already saw Superfly, what it did for Superfly, and what it did for Scarface. So you're like, I know I'm on the right path. Everybody says I'm on the right path.
Right.
Why should I feel guilty
Right.
for being on the right path? But now when you become conscious,
Yep. When you get pulled out of that matrix, you see the reality of it.
and you can see what's really going on, then you start to think differently.
Mhm.
And then you're just like, wait a minute. Maybe I wasn't right. Maybe everything these people been telling me was wrong.
Mhm.
But then at that point, do you have to psych yourself out to keep going with it?
What you start to back out. You should. I mean, I did. I started to back out. I started to. Well, really, I went in to get out. Because I kind of tried to base myself off of the Superfly. Superfly got out.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And when I went in, I'm thinking that, there was going to be some mob that was going to try to trap you in, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know that they don't need the mob to trap you in. You can trap yourself in.
You try. That's right.
My mama used to tell me, boy, you better get out of that stuff before it's too late. And she thinking it's the mob. But it's the addiction,
Yeah.
that traps you.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch base on this because you did get arrested and you served 5 years. Tell us about serving that time, because I think that was one of your first bottoms where you really realized something. Because getting out, you didn't want to go back. But let's talk about serving those 5 years.
Well, I had stopped selling drugs before I caught that case.
Okay.
I hadn't sold drugs for a year and a half. But, with the feds, if you commit a drug crime, if I sell somebody some drugs today, what's this, 2014?
There's a statute of
They have a
limitation.
statute of limitation. So they can arrest me up until 2021,
Wow.
7 years. So when I had stopped selling drugs, I thought I was good.
Mhm.
I'm going to just enjoy life and run my businesses.
Yeah.
But they came in a year and a half later and said, hey, you know what? You sold drugs to this guy, and we got such and such saying that you did it.
Mhm.
Even though they had no drugs, they had witnesses that was going to come in
Right.
and testify to that account.
And that's all it took was witnesses.
Oh, yeah, with the feds, they got what they call ghost dope, meaning that, a lot of these kids think that, you got to get caught with some drugs, but you don't. If they can convince a jury that you're a drug dealer, and what they do, it's kind of like I'm giving y'all a law class.
Let's speak on it.
Kind of like what they do is in the courtroom, they're allowed to draw pictures, and they ask the jury to fill in the gaps, and that it's not going to be a complete picture because there wasn't a camera there. And if the jury can fill in the pictures and believe beyond a reasonable doubt that was possible,
That's
then
enough.
they can find you guilty.
That's enough. Wow.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
That's amazing.
It is.
But that is our court systems and how we live, because you served 5 years, but when you got out, you still had the desire to live a straight life. But an old friend contacted you and wanted you to do one more drop.
Yeah, what he did, he asked me to get involved, and then when I told him that I wasn't involved anymore, he started asking me to introduce him to people, and that's what eventually got me arrested.
And what they were talking about was 100 kilos
Yeah.
of cocaine.
Well, it really was 700 kilos,
Oh,
but they was gonna do the first deal for 100 just to break the ice and,
wow.
and get started.
Wow. Now, the same friend that asked you to do this one last rope, kind of pull you back in just a little bit because he needed you, was the same guy that was working with the DEA.
Yeah, DEA, CIA, the Contras. He was a what they call as a he was an operant. Opera. I think that's the
Operant.
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 Operant. Yeah, he was an operant for the Contras
That's
and the
amazing.
CIA.
Now, I don't know if you wanted to mention his name because they mention his name all over the place now.
Yeah. I don't mind mentioning his name, Danilo Blandon. He's the guy that testified against me in court, and it really hurt me, because I thought we were really, really good friends, and to have him testify the way he did was like, wow. I mean, he put emphasis on. They asked him, did he see me in the courtroom? And what he did is he lowered his glasses down to his nose, and then he pointed at me and said, the one in the brown jumpsuit. And he knew I was looking at a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So the way I look at it is that he pretty much took a gun, pointed at me, and shot
Pull
it.
the trigger.
Pull the trigger, yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Well, I thought this was very interesting throughout your story. As you were making headlines in the courts, a journalist uncovered your story and started digging quite a bit into your story. And he started making connections between you and Mr. Blancon and the CIA and the Nicaraguan Civil War. And next thing you know, it is claimed that he committed suicide and shot himself, not once, but twice in his head.
Yeah, that is bizarre. I mean, the day
How do you shoot yourself twice?
Well, that's the
in the
Yeah, I
head
know
too,
that's the-
and
In
in
the
the
head.
head. Yeah,
I
but they
mean-
say it's possible.
Who said it's possible?
they draw a picture.
They had some
And then-
doctors that say that it was possible.
That is
Somebody's done it,
amazing.
so it's
I mean, I don't know. They just,
Oh yeah, I know.
in
Right.
their report, they had some doctors that said it has been done before and it
Yeah.
is possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what happened. I know that me and Gary had got to be very tight. Gary came down to visit me several times. He really helped us discover things in our case. Basically, the government was sandbagging us.
Right. That's what I,
I mean,
understood.
They was not giving us evidence. They was not turning over documents. Gary had documents in his possession that the government had
Wow.
that we didn't have, and was helpful to our case. There was a INS agent who worked with the DA agent. They fabricated a green card because technically on that case, that guy was not even supposed to be in this country. He was illegally in this country because he was a convicted drug dealer. And
Wow.
the immigration law says that any person that's
Convicted of a
drug offense
Loses-
must be deported unless the president or the attorney general gives them permission to be in this country, and neither one did. What they did was a rogue agent, what I call him, and he's also a liar. He got on the witness stand and lied, and he said in court, and here the informant lied, and they basically just sandbagged me, and they should have reversed my whole case. That case should have been threw out, and I shouldn't be on parole right now, but I am. I usually don't even talk about that, but
But I'm glad you're being honest and transparent because I think people out there listening and viewing are going to give you the respect and the credibility because you are. I think a lot of times, like you already mentioned it, we're not perfect. But if I come out here and start telling how perfect I am, nobody will listen to me. But if I'm out here telling, you know what, I'm hurting. I've made these mistakes. Because now you've turned your life around. You've turned your life around and you're giving back. Like you said, you're speaking to the youth. You're out there speaking at universities and giving these children hope and inspiration through your suffering.
absolutely.
I did want to touch on this as well. And this is a side question. How do you feel about George Jung being released from prison early? He was the inspiration to the movie Blow with Johnny Depp. He wrote the sequel to the Blow movie now, and he just was released. How do you feel about that?
Well, Nick Cassavetes wrote my movie as well, my script as
Woo!
well, so we got a connection there. I'm glad to hear that he's home. I believe that they should start bringing all our people home who's been convicted in this illegal drug war, because I believe that the drug war has created more drug use than anything else could ever possibly do, and it has wasted more money. They pay $45,000 a year to keep a guy in prison when that guy couldn't get a job on the street making $28,000 a year working. For some reason, our politicians are more into
Jailing than
jailing
actually rehabilitating.
and also prevention. See,
That's right.
there's a thing that says an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And
Wow,
I
that
believe
is
that
a
we
great
should start using preventions instead of cures.
I think that's great. I think that is a great quote right there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. When we come back, I want you to join us with Rick Ross, Freeway Rick Ross. We're going to be talking about his new book, his autobiography, which was written with Kathy Scott. Kathy Scott, if you don't know who she is, you need to know who she is, because she is also the writer of the Tupac story and the Biggie Small story. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In the early dawn of day, he quietly slips away. A peaceful and humble man, he seeks his Father and prays. Clothes ain't all fancy, and my car ain't brand new, but there is joy in my house.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio,
with a touch of recovery.
a reality show where nothing is left unsaid,
And no one is insignificant who says it.
exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is John McClure Jr., aka Simply John, and I would like to invite you to join us on GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com on LA Talk Live. And we're more than just talk. Remember, it's a heaven's party here on earth. So live life, love God.
What's up, world? This is Nicholas Cage, inviting you to join us every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time for New Rules Radio. Join us as we lend our social satire to the week's leading topics, include music, fashion, and politics. So don't forget to tune in to New Rules Radio, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio. Or just watch and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid and no one who says it is insignificant. I'm joined here by my co-host and CEO and founder of Street Fellas Inc., R.G. Robinson, and our in-studio guest, Rick Ross. You guys, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
If you don't know, Rick Ross has just released and is promoting his new book, Freeway Rick Ross, The Untold Autobiography. You're going to want to go out and get it. I'm going to give you more information at the end of the show. But it was very interesting that RG was talking about the name Rick Ross. I think you wanted to ask him a question about that.
Yeah. I was sitting there. I forgot I was supposed to be talking before I was listening to the story. Everybody knows about the situation with the rapper Rick Ross or the rapper William Roberts, known as Rick Ross. What is the situation with that?
Well, I went to court to try to get the courts to stop him from using my name and to stop Universal and Warner Brothers from promoting my name in the light that they're promoting it in. I wind up losing, one judge, and these judges all ruled different ways for different reasons, but they all came up with the same conclusion. One said I should have filed 5 days before I got out of prison. Another one said that the First Amendment rights gave him the right to use my name. So I guess the First Amendment rights would give me the right to go and call myself Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on that because I think some of the viewers and artists might not know, but Rick Ross is using your image, your name, and your story to apply it to the character that he plays, from my understanding. Is that
Pretty
correct?
much,
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think, RG, you can elaborate a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, it's just crazy to me that someone can do that and get away with it. I mean, to me, I think that he should have, as a man and as a brother, let's be honest, he should have had you on the phone the day you touched down out of prison, working out something where he could, you guys could get together, sit down and hash this whole thing out. That should have happened, man. There's no way that this guy, morally or anything else, should be able to do that. I mean, as a man, as a brother, as I said, he hasn't gotten in touch with you or anything. And from what I know, I've heard you say that you approached him and tried to shake his hand or something like that, and he just walked away from you.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, man. I don't get that. That's I don't understand
Well,
that.
it is pretty amazing that he's
Yeah.
using your name, which, okay, First Amendment. He's using your story, okay, First Amendment. But now he's using your image, and he's becoming the character that you actually
Well, people
were.
thought it was me.
There you go. And I
mean,
think
right
that's-
now there's kids on the street who think. I mean, I've been to a school and a kid asked me, because I do a Q&A after I finished speaking, and this one kid raised his hand, and I said, okay, and he said, why did you change your name to Rick Ross?
You're like, no,
And
my
then
mama gave me that name.
I had to tell him that's my birth name. That's the name that my mom and my father named me. I was Rick Ross when I didn't want to be Rick Ross.
But do you think that there's anyone out there that maybe thinks he didn't do it, or did he ever admit that he did change his name to Rick
No,
Ross?
he didn't
because of
admit
that?
it. He didn't admit it. No, he said that he invented the name. He really committed perjury.
Of course.
And in his rap songs, there are lines of your life story,
Oh, absolutely.
which blows me away.
He read up on me. I mean, the guy says he's a drug. What is it called? Where he keeps up with all the drug kingpins.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one that he never knew about. He knew about all these other guys, but he never knew about me.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I'm really more disappointed with the record labels than I am with him, because they're supposed to be more responsible. But it only.
I'm glad you said that. Because it is true.
It only shows more of what RG was talking about this system for incarcerating our babies. And I believe that the record labels are playing right into that field, because now they have a guy who basically authenticates what they're talking about.
Right. Right.
He's the real deal. And he's never said that what he does is only entertainment. You
Right.
know, he'll never say that.
No.
So when you got an impressionable mind, a 11-year-old, 12-year-old,
Yes.
you never tell them that it's entertainment, so they take it as being the real
life.
deal.
Well, I did want to touch on your accolades, because I know As This Magazine did a documentary on you that you can find on YouTube. You guys have to go and check that out. Support it. BET, you were on BET's American Gangster.
Yep.
VH1 did an acclaimed Planet Rock History of Crack and Hip Hop documentary, which you were in as well. You're a semi-regular guest on the Joe Rogan Experience. And the number one thing that I really want to touch on and ask you how your experience was Esquire's 80th anniversary did a special on you, Say Hello to Rick Ross.
Yeah.
Tell me how that was.
it was something else. And Mike Sager was just wonderful to work with. He rode around with me for about 3 weeks, and really got to know me. Mike is an extraordinary guy, and for people who get to meet him, you will meet an extraordinary guy. Mike, when he does his story, he likes to get into you. I mean, he likes to be right on your hip. So Mike would be at my doorstep at 6:30, sometimes 5 in the morning when I leave. He would be there, and he would ride around with me to go to every nightclub, every church, everywhere I went, he went. And I think that he did a fascinating story, and I'm really excited that Esquire did the story. That I was supposed to get the cover.
I did not know that. See?
Yeah, it was.
That's
Obama
amazing.
wasn't at first. They was talking about putting me on the cover, and they tossed that around. Should we give him the cover?
Whoa! I got to get this straight. So it was between you and Obama getting the cover.
Yeah.
That's some pretty good company, I gotta say. Woo! Tells you where our country's at too, though, right? Right. But I'm glad that they did that story on you, because I think it's important for our youth, our listeners here and viewers.
And it was
to hear
gutsy.
that.
It was gutsy of them to do that story. A lot of people.
They play it safe.
I mean, I've had people who've asked me to come on their show so they could show them what I'm doing now, and the network say no.
Wow.
We don't want that guy on our show. But then they'll take the rapper
Of course.
and put him on the same show.
Of course. Of course.
And I'm saying, don't sell drugs, don't shoot nobody, and he's saying, well, I do all this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Like
I'm
I said, how this country is so
like,
backwards.
How is that affecting our young babies' minds?
That's what I'm trying to get. That's the point I'm trying to get over to these kids. Honestly, if they just look at it, these guys are talking about the selling the drugs, and none of them are doing it. But if they were doing it and they were talking about it, wouldn't that be kind of stupid?
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, they'd be arrested.
Yeah,
That's what I was
exactly.
gonna
They would be
say. Like you
arrested.
said, that ghost drug.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be arrested. If I would have ever said before, I have my own task force.
Yeah. Really.
And I have my own freeway task force. There's a group
Yes.
of sheriffs and LAPD officers that was running around
yeah,
LA.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
Like 35 of them got fired for planting drugs and lying on
Yep.
police reports and all that kind of stuff. If I would have ever came out and said that I sold drugs, that'd have been all they needed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is amazing. Well, let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Freeway Rick Ross has his untold autobiography. You wrote it with Kathy Scott. Kathy Scott wrote the Tupac story, wrote the Biggie Small story. Tell us how it was working with Kathy Scott.
Well, Kathy is a wonderful person. We had a good time. She rode around with me for a couple days. She really wrote off of my notes. I wrote that book when I was in MCC San Diego, 28 stories high,
Wow.
looking over the Bay of San Diego. We call it the $1 Million View. The only thing is that your condo is only about 6 feet by 12.
Yeah, 6 by 12.
And then you got a bunkie in there that you might not know, and you got a steel toilet and an iron door, and you got a little teeny weeny window about 4 inches wide to look out of to get you some sunlight once in a while, and you're usually locked down 23 hours a day.
Wow.
So I wrote that book when I was sitting in that cell and going through that.
Well, I got to ask you, what will people find out that they don't already know about you in the book? I think people are out there, they want to know something more about you. What are they going to find out reading this book, going out and buying this book that they don't already know?
Well, they're
'Cause they
not
know
only
your
going to
story.
get to know me, but they're going to get to know my mother,
Perfect.
my sister, my brother, my pastor. I mean, they're going to get to know, I took you through my life, what made me do what I do. I'm also giving them the techniques that I believe made me able to make $1 million a day. I put that in there so that people can see and understand that those same skills are transferable. Even though I haven't had the kind of success right now that I'm gonna have, I am having some successes. My own personal documentary that I've been working on, that comes out in October the 10th, and it's coming out theatrical, not on TV. It's gonna be theatrical, and then we're gonna go to TV. So I have been having some successes, and I can see that those same skills are transferable, and I try to get that to the kids when I go and speak to them, that the skills that they're using on the street can be used in corporate America as well.
Because you have had the opportunity to speak at quite a few schools, UCLA, but some of the bigger schools that you're very proud of is you spoke at St. John's.
Oh no, I speak at St. John's on the 17th. 18th.
Oh, on the 17th, so that's coming up.
That's coming
and
up.
Brown University.
Brown University 2 months ago, sold
Wow.
out crowd. Brown University was just wonderful. I mean, those kids down there. I went and I had dinner with the Black Student Union.
Wow.
It was just amazing, you know, some of those kids, just to talk to them, to find out what they're going to school with, and to be able to share some of my wisdom with them. I mean, they're very bright, but they still needed, you know,
Some
sometimes
life wisdom. Some life
just
wisdom.
a little, yeah.
But like you talked about wanting to be in the Black Panthers when you were young. What a 360, what a full turnaround where now you're giving back to that community as well, inspiring them in a different way, but nonetheless motivating and inspiring them.
Absolutely.
A full 360, your calling.
Absolutely.
Your calling.
And this book is going to be inspiring. I've already been getting feedback from it, and the response is like overwhelming. People are telling me that, you know, a couple of my old friends who I grew up with read it, and they read their part, and they was like, man, you hit me right on the head.
That is great. Ladies and gentlemen, Freeway Rick Ross and his new book, Rick Ross, The Untold Autobiography. I want you to go right now. I want you to go to www.freewayrick.com, and I want you to buy the book. Go to his fan page, which is Freeway Ricky.
Yes.
Freeway Ricky on Facebook. I want you to like the page. I want you to know what he's doing. I want you to go out and support. Ladies and gentlemen, he needs your support. We need to support those people that God has given a second chance to remind us that he will also give us a second chance. Now he's giving back. He's speaking on the youth. I want you to support. You work with Nick Cassavetes, one of my all-time favorite. He was worked on the movie Blow with Johnny Depp, John Q with Denzel Washington, Alpha Dog, which is another true story, which the mom of the young boy that they killed, Suzanne, is also a good friend of mine who worked with Sharon Stone and Bruce Willis. He's working on your documentary, and I am
Right.
excited to hear about
Meeting
that.
Nick, the way I met Nick was crazy. I walked in the halfway house when I got out of prison,
Woo!
and a
That's
guy
great.
there had smoked with his phone, and you're not supposed to have phones in the halfway house. And he had smoked with his phone, and he was like, man, I got somebody want to speak to you. He's a movie producer, and he handed me the phone. It was Nick Cassavetes, and me and Nick has been friends ever since. He let me come on the set of Yellow, one of his not his last movie, but his movie before the last.
Before that one, yes.
And he let me direct. I directed for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It was
How
like,
cool.
now I'm getting ready to direct my own movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a movie I'm working on with Michael Blatton.
Wow. See that? I didn't know. I didn't know.
Well, it's not in the trades yet.
But you are also working on a multi-part documentary with Mark Levin. He
Yeah.
is a creator of Broke City. It's on the second season. So you're working on that as well.
I'm working on that as well. And you know, Nick Cannon has agreed to play my role in the movie that Nick wrote.
Really?
Yeah.
How interesting. Well, Rick, I got to ask you, the name of the show is called Joy in My House. We always like to ask this of all of our guests. What does joy in my house mean to you in today's day and age, right now where you are in life? What would joy in your house be like?
Openness, honesty, and the truth.
Amen. Amen. Freeway Rick, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I
for
think you're
having
going to
me.
do amazing things, and I think you're following
I gotta
your
come
calling.
back. I gotta come
You
back.
got to come back.
When this book sell 1 million copies.
There, I'm going to have you back.
It's
I'm gonna have to
sell
call
1
you.
million copies. It's gonna sell 1 million copies. So when it sell 1 million, I'm coming back.
There you go. Thank
do
you
it
for your
again.
faithfulness. Thank you for faithfulness. Thank you, RG Robinson from Street Fellas Inc. You can find RG Robinson from Street Fellas Inc. on RG Speaks on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to catch us next week live at noon for our Father's Day special with Pastor Jeff Timblin from Bridges Church. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have a blessed day.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. Who Christ the Son